Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Esa enai el hacharim, me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, oseh shamayim va'aretz. I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From whence shall my help come? My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. God will not suffer thy foot to be moved. Heaven that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, heaven that keepeth Israel doth neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall keep thee from all evil, and keep thy soul. The Lord shall guard thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and forever. Those were the words of the 121st Psalm. But perhaps the most recognizable and certainly the most beloved of all the Psalms is the 23rd Psalm. And no doubt most, if not all of us, have heard the 23rd Psalm before, particularly at times such as this. Because for nearly 2,500 years, they have been the Jewish tradition's expression par excellence of comfort and a sense of God's presence in the face of our loss. So I wish to recite these words in the most familiar translation. Anita, for you, and Cheryl, for you, Warren and Sharon, for you, Albert and Fran, for you, and you'll tell Paul and Susan as well, and Eli and Hannah, and Dylan and Jordan, and nephews, Gary and Marty, and Kelly too, and Gabriel and Laura, and you'll tell Emily and Will and Ryan and Max. And for the Chases and the Schwartzes and the Bacalls, the Wolfs, the Spivaks and the Sokals, neighbors, friends, locally and at the shore, colleagues, patients, all of us who have come here to mourn the passing of this wonderful, remarkable physician, your husband, your father and grandfather, your brother, your uncle, your children's great uncle, Uncle Murray, your physician, your caregiver, your friend, your humorist, your mentor. So for all of us, hear these ancient words again, and may they bring us all a sense of God's presence and consolation in the face of this community's great loss. Mizmor David, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Perhaps your homes are not all the houses of the Lord as you might intend them to be. But Murray surely brought goodness and mercy into your house, making it a house of healing for each and every one of you, whether you were his patient or not, and just heard of the legendary characteristics of this remarkable man. I'm sure everyone in this chapel and everyone who came here this morning to express their sympathy and their condolence, and everyone who wished they could be here and couldn't be, I'm sure you all have a Murray story. And are there cards? Have you seen the cards? Take note and write a brief Murray story, and don't forget to sign it. Those stories are precious, as was he. But in truth, it's not my words that are the important words today. It's what you have to say. It's what you've been sharing in these last days since the very sad news of his passing, and what you'll say and what you'll teach and what you'll share, and how you will remember him and how you will pay tribute to him for the days and weeks and years and decades to come. But for today, Gary, nephew Gary, will welcome you first. And then you, Eli, and Hannah, and then Warren, to offer those words of family tribute and honor that he so well deserves. Whatever you're comfortable.
I have no idea if I'll be able to get through this, so bear with me. I'm Jerry Moliken, Uncle Murray's biological nephew, and I say biological because I think there's some significance to that. If anyone has had a chance to read the obituary that was written just perfectly by Warren and Cheryl and Anita, and I understand Uncle Paul contributed. If you haven't had a chance to read that, you need to do so, because it truly, truly captured the essence of what Uncle Murray was really all about. It wasn't just a biological rehash of a chronological rehash of what he's done in his life, but it really got to the person that he is. And I noticed when I was perusing Facebook, there were all these responses to that obituary. And most of the responses were, Uncle Murray, what a great guy. My initial thought was one of just pure jealousy, because he's not your uncle, he's my uncle. And that's when the light kind of went off over my head. Uncle Murray was everybody's uncle. No matter how long you knew him, he wasn't Dr. Moliken. He was either Pop or he was Uncle Murray. People I had never met in my life were assigned him as Uncle Murray. And so I knew he was everybody's Uncle Murray. And that was both good and bad. The good part of that is you were part of his inner circle and his family. And the bad part meant you were not immune from being the brunt of his pranks. And as the rabbi indicated, there are many of those, and I don't want to go through all of what I have because we'd be here for a couple days, but there are a few that stand out for me that I think I should mention, and I'll try and keep it appropriate for the audience. That takes some doing. We were at some sort of function at the house on Dell Drive. I don't remember exactly what it was, but Uncle Murray was so proud of his saltwater aquarium. And there was a fish in there that was clearly in distress and was dying. The fish had ick. And I said to Uncle Murray, look at the fish, you got to do something with them. You got to flush them down the toilet. And he hollered his popular words. He said, get the net. Which he often said, if you ever went fishing with him, you knew what that meant. So someone got the net, and he scooped up this fish, and he opened the front door, and he threw it out in the front yard. And the fish flopped to its death. And I gave him such a hard time about it. And 2 days later, I was back at my office in the D.C. area. I got a package. So I had no idea. I wasn't expecting anything. It was that fish's corpse. Sent by Uncle Murray. And there was a note. There was a note attached into the little makeshift coffin that he had prepared for him. And the note said, I remember it so well, it said it really wasn't a horrible death. And it was better than being flushed down the toilet like you wanted. Had I been flushed down the toilet, I would have been floating down the Potomac, would have had to float past your dirty, nasty house, and I didn't need to see that. So this was much preferable. Okay, I really wasn't surprised. And my next story also has sort of a fishing theme to it. Several years ago, many years ago, it's probably 20 years at this point, we went out deep sea fishing out of Oregon Inlet down in North Carolina. It was myself, my father, Al, Uncle Murray's other brother, my brother, Marty, myself, and Uncle Murray. And at the time, Uncle Murray and I were the only two who owned boats. We were boaters. The other two were just landlubbers. So we were out fishing, and I got sick. I got seasick, which I never do. And I went in the bathroom, and I threw up. And I come out, as I open the door, there's Uncle Murray standing there, and his eyes are real red. And I said, I got sick. And he said, no, whatever. And then he got sick, and he threw up on me. We get back to the dock, and it's amazing what land can do, because instantly he felt better. And this is the type of thing when you get back to the dock, and the boat docks, all these people, total strangers, come up to the boat to see what kind of fish you caught. And the mate started throwing the fish onto the dock. And Uncle Murray, in his loud, booming voice, is telling these total strangers, that was my fish, I caught that one, I caught that one, and by the way, Gary threw up. And I looked over at him, and he sort of gave me this little sly Uncle Murray grin, and he winked at me. And that wink just made me smile. And I say that, and it's so significant because we came up a couple weeks ago to see Uncle Murray, and obviously he wasn't doing well at all. It was very hard to hear him when he spoke. We were sitting in the room. It was me, my father, my mother, my brother, and Uncle Murray and I sort of locked eyes. And he winked at me. And it was the exact same wink that I had seen on that fishing boat. And I remember it so well. And it made me smile. And I'm going to make it my vow, as I think everyone here should, when you think of Uncle Murray, I think you have to smile, and I think you have to laugh, because I know that's what he would want us to do. And so Anita, and Warren, and Cheryl, and Sharon, and Eli, and Hannah, and Dylan, and Jordan, you're so lucky to have had your pop. And I know that he wants him to smile and to laugh. That's what he wants. I know that. That's what he wants. But I will just never forget that Moliken. It just took me back. That's all I have to say. I know we all miss him and love him. Thank you.
Pop, you were the calm before the storm. Then you're in rock in the storm, the calm after the storm. Candy of the wrench and the needle. A fighter for me and all. Interested in what I was interested in. I wish you got to go to an Eagles game the year they won the Super Bowl, but happy got to watch the Super Bowl game of you and the cousins. The help of those in need, no questions asked. Help to embrace more of my crazy side and live life less seriously. All the while checking on people the way you did. I love you, Pop. You made the unknown sane and safe by your presence. The world will be quieter without you. Love you, Pop. Yeah.
The I Love You game was a game that Pop and I would play every time we saw each other or spoke to each other on the phone. How it would work is whoever beat the other by saying I love you would have to give the other a hug and a kiss first. As you will hear from reminiscing about Pop is that he was filled with love and the ability to make people laugh. For me, it was literal. Pop would give me the best tickles and make me laugh so hard that a couple of times my lips turned blue. Amy tried to forbid it, but that didn't let her. Pop was my number one fan. He sat, watched, recorded, and pretended to enjoy the impromptu silly dance shows at Brownburn without any music, just rolling around the house. He and me always attended my French horn concerts and were there for every graduation or to congratulate me on any monumental moment. I will always admire and strive for a relationship that Pop and me had. Though, to me, finding a match like they had seems like a fantasy. Anytime I would call Mimi, I knew Pop would be with her. If she didn't answer, I'd go straight to calling Pop because I knew he would be with her. It was we were going to Pop and Mimi. Where's Pop and Mimi? Where's Mimi and Pop? My heart is broken knowing that it is now just Mimi, even though I know he is against yours. I was fortunate to see Pop towards the end, despite knowing he was suffering and struggling. He still managed to make us laugh, was constantly concerned about how I was doing in school, and continued to persevere for us. Unknown to both of us that it was the last time that we spoke. Mimi and Mom suggested that we play the I Love You game. The last words Pop said to me, in the loudest voice he could muster up, was, I love you, and I will never forget it. So, to Pop, I love you, I beat you, and I'll be waiting for you to beat me and the hug and kiss that I deserve.
A song for my father. Somehow magically, I was gifted with a front row seat to the greatest show on earth that was my father's life. You were at that same show, just in different seats. We all have our favorite moments. For many of us, he helped shape the soundtrack of our lives. The earliest song of my father that I recall was not a dig in the sand at the shore or playing with my Tonka trucks. It was a darker tune. You're probably thinking, that's not the man I knew. But indulge me. When I was about 5, most assuredly to give my mom some respite from the craziness of my inherited Mary Jean, he took me on his weekend rounds. My dad had a large geriatric practice in addition to his private family practice. He would tote me from one old age home to another. These weren't pleasant places by any stretch of the imagination. They were end-of-life hospitals. Some were state-administered nursing homes. Like I said, there was darkness. And one might argue it wasn't a place to bring a child. For certain, my dad wasn't thinking it through. He was being Murray, moving through life without boundaries, with his heart-centered instinct. Yet, it was in those homes when I began the most important education of my life, human compassion. You all know, Dr. Moliken was the most genuine and kind man, an endless well for making others smile. Peeking from inside his white lab coat, I witnessed transformation. Lifeless dull eyes would turn to glints of joy when he sat holding withered hands. Deep belly laughter emanating as he whispered the most inappropriate jokes. Stillness from his transcendent bedside manner, a solemnity when the time came. And of course, a young boy to bring a smile to the lonely. Our companionship was magic medicine, attending hospice to those who could not be healed. And at heaven's door, our visits created the web of life, a pattern and energy not possible without the intertwined dance of doctor, patient, and child. Right now, in this moment, my heart is full. I am that boy in fearless admiration of my father's love. It was my father who taught me that human is only an adjective that describes being, and that the essence of who I am is not my humanness, but my beingness. I love you, Dad. May your spirit be free.
I'd like to say a few words.
Al, can you take the ramp up?
Well, our brother Paul couldn't be here today. His wife had surgery and he was staying home to take care of her. And I have a few notes here. When Murray and I were little, we slept together in the same bed in our parents' home in Philadelphia. It was a 2-story house with one toilet. In addition to that, my dad had a workbench and an office, not an office, but it was a workbench with lathes and tools, all kinds of tools. And Murray would always go down there and he would learn a lot from my dad. He could fix and do anything. So one time, Murray took a speaker and hooked it up to the toilet upstairs. And he had a microphone downstairs. My mother went into the bathroom. About 2 seconds later, Murray hollers, "Annie, get off the pot!" Well, everybody's laughter was fun, but it wasn't to my mother's. There's another story, maybe some of you have heard this, maybe have not. When Murray was a medical student going to Jefferson, one day the intern was taking all the medical students around and they went to the morgue. But before they got to the morgue, Murray went into the morgue, hopped on a gurney and threw a sheet over his head. When the intern came in, the law students passing by, Murray jumped up with the sheet, yelled, "Yeah!" He scared the heck out of him. But there are probably a lot more fun stories. But another story was my mother sent Murray and I to sleepaway camp. I was 11, he was 4 years old. I didn't pay any attention to him. Maybe I saw him once the whole summer because I was too much interested in having my friend. Anyway, he caught poison ivy, and it was the worst summer he ever had. And he never went back for the second and third years. But that's just some of the stories I have.
You may know that the greatest Jew of the medieval period was Moses Maimonides. And you might also know that he was not only the greatest Talmudist and biblical commentator of the last 2,000 years, but he was a great physician as well. He wrote a prayer that he would recite daily. Some of you may have even seen that prayer. You may even have a copy of it. Those amongst us who are practicing physicians. I'd like to quote these couple of lines because I believe that from the 12th century until today, and no doubt throughout Murray's entire practice, Maimonides must have been thinking of him. Quote, "Inspire me with love for my art and for thy creatures. Preserve the strength of my body and of my soul, that they ever be ready cheerfully to help and support rich and poor, good and bad, enemy as well as friend. Support me, O Lord, so that I might benefit all humankind." Not only was Murray by education and training and experience and practice a great healer, he also knew the healing power of humor. The healing power of humor. And you have obviously learned that lesson. So if I might take a page out of his textbook, Gary, he really wasn't interested in sending you the whole fish. He just hoped that you'd be happy getting a fin. Fin is a metaphor for a $5 bill, which I'm sure you would have preferred. Every one of those stories, every one of those vignettes, every one of those memories is a way for you and everyone who benefited from his healing powers of intellect and heart and soul. It's a way for you to transfer that energy and heal the world. because the world so desperately needs healing. Every one of us here knows that. The whole world knows that. Murray knew that and offered his energy and his compassion and his humor and his goodness, one patient, one human being at a time. I could regale you with story after story after story, but I'll simply say that the world loved the clock doc. And I am grateful that I'm also a recipient of a clock. Now you might know that there are thousands of children who received these clocks, these hands of healing, from his own efforts, Warren, from your effort initially, from children to children, and to all the firehouses of New York City because of what they experienced at 9/11. And all the children who lost their fathers and mothers in 9/11. Those clocks, they must be traveling not only around the country, but around the world with one simple message. Look at the clock. Yes, you'll see the photograph, that iconic photograph of the three firemen hoisting the American flag above the pile. And I can tell you firsthand, the pile was awful. And no doubt you see all the clocks, the watches, and after all, what's cheaper than a clock that doesn't work? He was able to get thousands and thousands of them. But more importantly, it's the hands. Because everyone who sees a clock such as this, and maybe you own one, every one of us will see those hands and think of the healing hands of the clock tower. The healing heart, the healing you, the healing soul of this extraordinary human being. Keep your memories safe, because you'll need to tell them to each other, to the current generation, and to the generations to come, to the generations of doctors and nurses and physicians' assistants and staff, all those generations to come. May they only know how to heal the way Murray knew how to heal. And may they become pillars of their communities as your husband, your father, your grandfather, your brother, your uncle, and your colleague became. A pillar of this community. Because of his jokes, his pranks? No. That was just the icing on the cake. It was because he embodied the essence of what it means to be a fixer, a healer, one who can make the world better, one beating heart at a time. May his soul rest in peace, his memory assured, his task accomplished, and his seat at Anzio's now empty. But your hearts, our hearts, this community's heart, the world that he touched, filled with joy, healing, and hope from this extraordinary human being. Perhaps somewhere on high, he's able to meet Moses Maimonides himself. Maybe exchanging jokes, maybe not. But certainly this, exchanging the hope that his presence, their presence, his influence, their influence, his energy and dynamism and intellect will continue to heal the world through you, through me, through what we can do in his name to bless his memory. Amen. We rise for the El Moliken. El Mole Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Amtzein Nucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Lenishmat Michael Ben Matel V'chana Shehalach Le'olamo Ba'al HaRachamim Yitzror B'Yitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato, Yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'nomor, Amen. God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest unto your beloved Murray, the son of Max and Anne, who has departed from this world. Lord of mercy, bring him into thy presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou his possession. May his repose be peace. And may the love he had for you and the love you had for him across nearly 60 years of marriage propel him through eternity. And may that love bless his presence forever. Amen. Our service here is concluded. Please be seated.
Will the pallbearers please step to the center aisle? I'll ask if we can rise once more, please.